This new moon in Cancer is not what you would expect from your typical Cancer moon. These energies are dynamic. They are forceful. They are asking us to look into parts of ourselves that we may find uncomfortable. They're asking us to come up with higher solutions, to take a higher perspective and a higher vision, and to really grow enormously. In this video, I am going to be going over these incredibly potent energies with you so that you can understand them and best utilize all of the healing potential that is available to us as we are moving through this portal or gateway. The new moon occurs at 14 degrees of Cancer this year, exactly conjunct the star Sirius. And this is seriously a big deal because the conjunction of the Sun and Sirius is the meeting of our physical sun with our spiritual sun, which is how Sirius is generally known. So this is an astronomical influx of light codes and higher healing energies coming through. Sirius is actually a combination of two major stars, Sirius A and Sirius B. And these two stars kind of revolve around each other, sharing energy, really building on each other's energy and the potential of energies that are being created. Sirius A holds a mass which is 3 times greater than our physical sun. And Sirius B has a mass that is essentially as big as our sun, but condensed into a much smaller vessel, if you will. Sirius B is actually invisible to the naked eye, but that doesn't make it any less powerful. Kind of like how astronomers like to say that Pluto is no longer a planet because they define it more as a planetoid or an asteroid. But we all know who study astrology, how powerful and potent the energy of Pluto is. That's kind of the same idea that we're working with when we're talking about the energy of Sirius B. So Sirius A and Sirius B essentially are spiritual suns. They deliver high vibrational energy to this entire galaxy. And this energy is filtered through the sun as Sirius comes into contact with the sun. So that takes the light codes that we are already receiving from what I refer to, and I probably already did refer to, as our physical sun, and amplifying them and adding an even higher spiritual energy. So that energy is coming through. It is elevating us. It is activating our DNA, our light bodies. It is doing so many beautiful things. But as we all know, when our light bodies are being activated, when this pure high vibrational energy is streaming in, and it's always streaming in, but right now it's that much more powerful because of the connection to the sun, it can stir some things up. We have a pinnacle of energy when the Sun and Sirius come into contact, which does not always happen during the new moon, which is what makes us that much more brilliant. And then another pinnacle of energy on the 7/7 portal. So we can look at this whole first week of July as a massive gateway of high vibrational spiritual energy that is connecting us with a deeper essence of ourselves, with our higher selves, and with that higher spiritual knowledge, that higher spiritual wisdom, and that continuity of energy, that infinity of energy, the endlessness of our being, and the interconnectedness that we have with all things. So essentially what's happening here when we have the Sun and Sirius conjunct with the moon on the new moon is that a portal is created within a portal. This just amplifies the energies that are already streaming through at high velocity. But it is a beautiful, gentle energy in many senses. Sirian energy is not harsh. It is very beautiful. It is very soothing. But at the same time, it's asking us to grow. It's asking us to evolve. And it's supporting us in that process of doing so. One more interesting thing to note about Sirius A and Sirius B is that these two stars, like we said, are constantly revolving around each other, sharing energy. But they come as close in orbit as they will ever come every 49.9 years. And when this happens, they create essentially a storm, an electromagnetic storm of energy that can be felt throughout the entire cosmos. The next time this will be occurring is in 2043, around 2043, 2042, 2043. And I thought that it was fascinating that that is also going to be when Pluto is moving into the sign of Pisces. So that's going to be a very powerful time, I do believe. All right, let's move on now to the number 2 thing to know and understand about this new moon in Cancer. This new moon is working with all of the nuances of feminine energy, all of the different faces, if you will, of the feminine. At the beginning of this video, I talked about how this new moon is very different from how we might typically experience or expect the energies of a Cancer new moon. And that's because most people, when they think about Cancer, they think about that sweet, gentle, nurturing energy. They think about the mother, right? Cancer being ruled by the moon, representing the energy of the mother. And yes, this is one of the faces of the feminine, but the feminine has many faces. And even the moon energy in and of itself, the mother energy, has multiple faces. Think about the energy of the mother toward her children, archetypically speaking, would be gentling, would be loving, would be nurturing. We know we didn't all necessarily experience this with our mothers, but this is the archetype energy. However, if somebody threatens her children, we see the mama bear energy come out, and that mother energy is fierce. So even within the archetype of the moon and the mother, the energy of the feminine can be very, very fierce. It can have many sides. The illustration of the energy and the many sides of the feminine that we are experiencing and expressing and learning how to balance and honor during this new moon in Cancer can be witnessed through multiple planetary alignments. We have, during this new moon, a loose conjunction to Venus in Cancer. And Venus in Cancer is being squared by Chiron in Aries. Chiron, known as the wounded healer, is a planetoid that represents our deepest primordial wounds. And these are the wounds that can never really be fully healed because they run so deep. However, when we approach them, when we begin this process of working through them, we are able to gain an incredible amount of insight and wisdom, and they really refine us and teach us more than almost anything else, any other lessons that we're going to learn on this planet. So these are great, deep, profound lessons as we move through this process of working with our Chiron energy. And ultimately, Chiron energy shows us what type of healing it is that we have to offer the world. And that is part of the healing of this Chiron wound. Like I said, it's a wound that can never be fully healed, but we still go through a process of healing as a result of it. It's just a healing that never ends. You know how we always use the analogy of the onion, right? And how healing is like peeling away the layers of an onion. The layers of Chiron are endless, but we get a deeper and richer understanding of ourselves and the world around us, and an appreciation and empathy for other people as well as we continue to unravel these layers. So Chiron in Aries has very much been collectively healing wounds around the masculine energy, around aggression, around the ways that we get what we want, around the will and our ability to assert ourselves, our ability to identify and fulfill our needs. So we have this energy paired and squaring Venus and Cancer, who is very much in her mother energy in the sign of Cancer. Now, Venus, traditionally speaking, is often associated with as her own energy, not when we're taking her out of a sign, right? Except perhaps the signs that she rules, which would be Taurus and Libra. And we're just looking at the energy of Venus herself. She's often represented as what we look for in a partner and how it is that we love and connect with others. But Venus, like the feminine, has many, many different layers to her. And that is just one of the many layers. Venus, similar to Mars, but in a different manner, represents what we value, what we desire, what we find beautiful, the way that we project sometimes these understandings of beauty onto other people and experience the beauty within ourselves through the beauty of another. She also represents part of our sensuality, part of our beautiful feminine sexual energy, and the ways that we express that and work with that, the ways that we charm, the ways that we seduce. All of those different energies all fall within the realm of Venus. Although when she is in the sign of Cancer, this close to the moon, she does take on a lot more of that traditional moon mother type of an energy and archetype. However, Venus being so close or close enough to the sun and the moon to be lending her energy in that loose conjunction is also being affected by a T-square that is going on with the sun and the moon and the nodes of fate. So we have Black Moon Lilith conjunct the South Node in Libra, opposing the North Node, as always happens. The nodes are always opposite each other in the sky, the North Node and the South Node. And both of them squaring the sun and the moon, and loosely Venus, because she is part of this conversation and part of this energy. So this adds another layer of tension, as Black Moon Lilith represents another aspect of the feminine, and she represents the wild feminine, the dark feminine, the shadow feminine, all the aspects of the feminine that have been repressed, suppressed, or oppressed, and that itch to break free. This is where we long to rebel. We may or may not, depending on how Lilith is expressing in our charts. But these are the aspects of the feminine that have been perhaps wronged, right? There is that energy, not perhaps, they have been wronged. If we look at the story and the fable of Lilith as the first wife of Adam, who was ejected from the Garden of Eden for demanding equality as opposed to being subservient to the masculine, we see this energy sort of playing out here. And it's really interesting when we are looking at it in juxtaposition to the moon energy, which is the energy that the feminine, and this is not to say that that is not a beautiful aspect of the feminine, with this new moon in Cancer and these Sirian energies, we are definitely honoring that part of the feminine, but we are understanding that as a part of the feminine. And the other aspects of the feminine are also asking for their energy and their presence and their importance to be known. And so we see throughout history, and I was looking at this and thinking about this, the way that the feminine energy was once revered. And then as the patriarchy and as all of these darker energies came and infiltrated our reality and things got twisted, we moved into this energy where the feminine energy was essentially reduced. And now that I'm thinking about this, she was actually reduced in two ways. So we can see the moon energy as being the reduction of the feminine for the most part, right? She's looked at as the mother. She's looked at as the nurturer. If the feminine desires more than that, she's looked at as being wrong. She's looked at as being sinful, right? As being defective. But there's also another aspect, and that is the harlot, which is one of the energies that Venus can play. And it is definitely a role that Black Moon Lilith has played. And so it was, you're one or the other. There is no middle ground. There's no way around it. And the socially acceptable way to express your feminine energy is to be the moon, the mother, as opposed to the harlot. And so we see this energy here, playing out throughout society. And I found it really fascinating that as society has evolved and we've returned more to the honoring of the feminine has become more empowered. We're seeing a lot of different faces of the feminine emerging. We're seeing many, many asteroids coming out, which define different aspects of the feminine energy, whether we're talking about Eris, which I like to call the feminine Mars or the female warrior planet, whether we're talking about beautiful nurturing Ceres, who actually happens to be opposing the sun and the moon at 14 degrees of Capricorn, which I think is also very interesting. She's taking on the masculine energy there, the Saturnian energy of Capricorn. So we're seeing, once again, the ways the feminine energy is being stretched. It's asking to take on different forms. It's being asked to expand its view of itself and the ways that it expresses in the world. Capricorn being the energy, like we said, relating to Saturn, relating to the father, in my opinion. A lot of people say the sun relates to the father. I also see Capricorn and Saturn in that sense. And sort of that less emotional, more practical side of things. So we have that energy going on. But we have all of these different asteroids that represent multiple facets of the feminine. So we're beginning to explore more aspects to acknowledge the feminine as multifaceted as she truly is, because there is no energy, in my opinion, that is more nuanced than the energy of the feminine, right? She is the void. She is the mystery. She is creation. She is gestation. There's so much power within the feminine archetype. And I think we're having a lot of fun with playing with this as a society, with reintroducing ourselves to these different aspects of the feminine. And whether you identify as masculine or feminine, this is an energy or an essence that resides in everybody. We all contain within us a masculine and a feminine energy. And this new moon is there's a lot of focus on the feminine, but as we'll get deeper into these aspects, we're going to see how the masculine energy is also being highlighted here. But with this square from the South Node and Black Moon Lilith in the sign of Libra, the South Node is asking us to look at past experiences, past lives. And we're looking at ways within Libra where the feminine was suppressed, most likely due to the constraints of society, due to having to please, due to not wanting to rock the boat, to make people happy, to mediate, to keep the peace, all of those different energies where we had to compromise aspects of ourselves. And this energy is asking us to take that power back, to take ownership of these aspects of ourselves, and to be comfortable standing in the truth of who we are, expressing those parts of ourselves that have been pushed into the shadow. And one thing that I'm learning, which makes sense, is that when we push things into our shadow, they don't just, we know that they don't just go away, but the frequency with which those things are projected to us from seemingly outer forces increases. So if we're not acknowledging an aspect within us, we're going to run into people and situations that display that aspect of our being that we have pushed into the shadow. And that is going to cause all kinds of unnecessary drama. So this is a great opportunity to really delve into some of those shadow aspects of our nature, especially where it comes to our feminine energy, so that we can reconcile it, so that we can integrate that into the wholeness of our being. There's going to be a lot of tension here. We're going to be sometimes kind of looking at okay, so these energies and these needs and desires are so at odds with one another. How is it that I make this fit, right? It's kind of like that old analogy of trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. That's what it may feel like for some people. But this is where we really employed that energy of Cancer. We retract, right? We pull away from all the outer energies, all the outer opinions, right? We go into our own energy. We feel into ourselves. We listen to our intuition. We carve out that safe, sacred space, and we take the time to really listen to what our inner feminine wants to tell us. What way is it most desiring to be expressed at this time? How can we bring her into balance? She will let us know if we take that time to get quiet and connect with her. So that, I think, is one of the most intense aspects that we have going on as we move through this powerful new moon portal. We also have here, talking about the masculine energy, a loose sextile to Mars in Taurus going on. And Mars in Taurus is approaching Uranus in Taurus right now. So we have these two energies coming together on the 15th of July. This conjunction of Mars and Uranus will be exact. And that is going to be an intense energy. I'm letting you guys know right now. It is happening at 26 degrees of Taurus, which interestingly enough is the location of another fixed star known as Algol. And Algol is sometimes referred to as the demon star or the Lilith star. So once again, we have that energy. It represents Medusa's eye. It is within a constellation of the constellation of Medusa, and the star represents her eye. So we have this powerful energy here of Lilith coming through again. We can expect, I honestly don't even want to start hazarding guesses as to what we can expect, but we can definitely expect shakeups and intense energies, intense willpower coming through. People being really stubborn, being really stuck in their way, and getting their way. But what this conjunction is really asking us, and we're feeling the effects of it already, they're close enough together that we are feeling them during this new moon as they sextile the sun and the moon, which is a very active, energizing aspect. It's a positive one, but it's very active. So they're asking us to get really clear about what it is that we want, what it is that we value, and to understand and honor the areas in our lives where we simply cannot compromise. And we all have these areas within our lives, these areas where we're willing to compromise, and these areas where we know that if we compromise, we will be compromising ourselves. And the sacrifice of our needs, our wants, is greater than what we are willing to bear. And so this is the energy that is highlighted here. It's really asking us to stick to our guns in some sense, way, shape, or form. Another interesting aspect going on during this new moon that highlights that energy of the masculine is the fact that this new moon is sandwiched between two full moons in Capricorn. The first full moon we just had, and that was at 1 degrees of Capricorn. And the second full moon, which we will be experiencing later in July, and I should have the exact date for you guys, but I don't. We will be experiencing a couple weeks after this new moon. That is occurring at 29 degrees of Capricorn. So we have a full movement through the sign of Capricorn, all of the energies and nuances of Capricorn here. And when we're working with this Cancer Capricorn axis, as we talked about in an earlier video, we are working with the axis of maturity. There is somewhere where we're being asked to grow up. We're being asked to reparent ourselves in a sense, to find that balance of nurturing and structure, and to find the ways that we can meet this energy within ourselves. We're very much being asked to decide, what are the things that I need? And what obligation do I have to supply those to myself versus what can I realistically expect to be, where can I realistically expect these needs to be met by the outside world, whether this is by family, whether this is, what have you. So this energy, it feels to me as though with this new moon, we are having this breath of fresh air. We're having this opportunity to once again, like we said, go within, take a step back, reevaluate everything that came through with that first Capricorn full moon, and then bring that wisdom that we've accumulated through our own internal processes that we felt our way through, so to speak, and apply that wisdom as we move toward that second full moon in Capricorn. It's interesting to note as well that Saturn, who is the ruler of Capricorn, is also involved in this new moon. And he is in a sextile to this new moon, recently having gone retrograde in the sign of Pisces. And when I look at Saturn in Pisces, I see this energy as really representing the new Earth timeline, the 5D timeline. And so whenever we have Saturn in Pisces coming into contact, especially during these retrogrades with another planet, Saturn is asking us to evaluate the timeline that we are on. Do our words, our actions match up with the reality that we are wanting to create? Do our choices align us with that new Earth timeline, with that higher timeline? Or do they align us with the lower, more inverted timelines? And if they are not in alignment and putting us in alignment with that higher timeline, how can we restructure? How can we take accountability for our energy so that we can once again align with that higher timeline? What are the steps that we need to take? This is very much the energy that says it is all within you. Only you have the power to change your life. So are you going to take responsibility for your creations? Are you going to take responsibility for the fact, like we said, that everything that we're experiencing externally is a mirror of something internal, and shift that internal energy, that frequency, that vibration through the actions that we take in the physical world, whether that be doing some shadow work, whether that be just showing up for your life, whether that be working on your mindset, your perspective. And I'm very excited that very soon here, we are going to be doing a Master Your Mind challenge. So everybody stay tuned for that. If you're new to this channel, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss that. It's going to be incredible. Taking responsibility for that so that you can stay aligned with that higher path forward. And with this Cancer energy here, it's very much feeling into that and really checking in with yourself. How do I feel about my world right now? How do I feel about what I'm creating? How do I feel in general, right? Because a lot of us, we don't take the time to do that. We're always doing, right? In that masculine energy, rushing through things, distracting ourselves so we don't have to deal with the feelings. We don't have to deal with what's in. This Cancer new moon is very much bringing that energy to the surface. There is no way to avoid it. So check in with yourself. Understand that the biggest part of aligning with that new earth timeline is through our vibration, and our feelings directly impact our vibration. They are evidence that shows us where our vibration is at, and that also shows us whether our reality is palatable or not. It shows, our feelings show us when we're in alignment or out of alignment. So they're a great opportunity. This is a great time to check in with that so that we can recalibrate and restructure and have that reality check that brings us into alignment with where it is that we are most wanting to go. This energy, even though some of these energies are heavy, this new moon is very much about the energy of liberation. Sirius itself is known as a liberator, and it is no coincidence, I don't think, that many countries, including the US, have their or celebrate their Independence Days sometime within that first week of July. This is a very revolutionary energy in a sense where we are stepping into our empowerment, owning our spiritual energy, really learning how to master that and work with that in a harmonious way for the good of all. It's a very magician meets high priestess kind of an energy here that I'm feeling as we're talking about this. The final thing to know and understand about this new moon in Cancer is the fact that in addition to all of these other planets, we also have Mercury very, very active in the sign of Leo. Mercury is receiving an opposition to Pluto in Aquarius, a trine from Neptune, who is stationed retrograde at 29 degrees of Pisces, and a sextile from Jupiter in Gemini. So a lot of activational energy here. Mercury and Leo, especially connecting with Jupiter in Gemini, very much wants to speak its piece. It wants to express itself. That opposition to Pluto in Aquarius really only makes that drive and that desire greater. And it makes us that much more likely to butt heads with people who we feel are inhibiting our ability to express ourselves. But this energy, especially Neptune here, so strong in its home sign at that anaretic or final degree of Pisces, stationed in the sky, just exuding its energy, is really taking center stage here. Neptune and, of course, Pluto being the outer planets. So they're really countering Mercury in a sense and saying, it's time to go deeper. It's time to think before we speak. It's time to evaluate and reevaluate, very similar to a Mercury retrograde type energy. And I do feel preparing us for Mercury's retrograde through Virgo and Leo at the end of August, right? It's telling Mercury, there's something here that you missed. There's something that you're not seeing clearly. There is another perspective. There is another approach. There's a deeper understanding that really has to do with the core of who we are. It's not so much about somebody or something else, although that may be the impetus that causes us to go within. But this Neptune energy is saying there's some aspect of Mercury, representative of our linear mind, right? And a key player and aspect of our ego consciousness that needs to be released, that needs to be let go, that is no longer working, that is no longer serving, that is no longer relevant. So Neptune is urging Mercury to let go of that old story, to let go of that old identity. And it's saying, yes, express yourself, but express more of the truth of who you are. Don't play to the crowd so much, maybe. Don't look for the applause. Don't try to be shocking and over the top. Be who you are. Sink into that. Express that truth. Express that higher truth that's coming through. And don't speak before you have all the information. Don't act before you have all the information. Take this time to gather that, to let it simmer, to pay attention to what is coming up from the unconscious with that Plutonic energy, right? And allow all of this to influence what it is that you speak, what it is that you share, and the direction that it is that you are going. Overall, that's what this new moon in Cancer is all about. It's about really evaluating and feeling into the direction that we're going, making the necessary adjustments, and moving forward from there. It's taking that step back, taking that step within, understanding that everything in the outer world, like we said, is a reflection of what's going on within, and that this is where the journey starts. This is where the healing starts. It's about an opportunity to take in those beautiful Sirian light codes, to integrate them, to allow them to help us to see the deeper meaning, to help us to get a deeper insight into the truth of who we are, into the many ways that our masculine and feminine energies interplay with each other in order to create, in order to color our experience, and to really take control and ownership of that experience in a way that feels good. I love you so much. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being here. If you have not yet subscribed, like I said, go ahead and do so. Make sure you like this video. Drop a comment down below. Let me know how you're feeling all of these energies. These are big, big energies. These are big personal energies. These are collective energies and imprints that we're working with. So we're going to be working through a lot. We're going to be feeling through a lot, sifting and shifting through a lot. And we have an opportunity here to do this together. So go ahead, voice how you're feeling in the comments, connect with other people, connect with the free Facebook group that I offer for everyone that's linked in the description box below. And if you want to connect with me one-on-one, I do one-on-one coaching. I do all types of different readings, astrology, tarot, you name it, energy healings, energy clearings. I would love to assist you. It would be my honor and my privilege if that is something that resonates for you. I will talk to you all very soon.